So, hello and welcome to what would be a new series on my channel. I kind of came up from salvage together, and that would be to essentially show people my races that I do, and not just dumping the VODs up and showing you what I did throughout the week, but essentially this is a sum up of all the races that I had last week, and yeah. As you're seeing in the background, this is currently for my first race that I had of the week, which was on Wednesday. I had planned to technically run the HHRL, so Happy Hour Racing League's NASCAR race on Monday evening, which is Tuesday mornings for me because it's Monday evening in US times. But when I configured my alerts, I accidentally turned it off again, so I missed that race. So this is the first race being on Wednesday, which is the R Racing League's 100 minutes Sports Car Championship. This is round 6 of the championship. This is currently my essentially my last qualifying run. There's split qualifying of the entire qualifying session is 20 minutes, but the LMP2s are going first, and the 10-minute timer has just elapsed. You're hearing some Porsches in the background, which have started their out lap. I'm allowed to finish my lap, so I'm doing that, and I'm really fast at that lap. I'm currently sitting at 5th and approaching the line, making a half-decent attempt to get around that corner, and making a run to the line to get myself 3rd place. And then throwing the car off to scenery because I'm not allowed to finish that lap. So, just to give an outlook essentially on this championship as we're gridding up, and now I've jumped to gridding up. Somebody dropped off the server, so I'm writing we should probably restart into warm-up so they can rejoin, because they're on the server. It's just we would need to restart warm-up. Now the race is now gone green. We have a standing start, but we are ruled under. We're doing a formation lap essentially at about 130 kilometers an hour, and we're getting essentially rolling for that. I qualified 3rd, and now let me give an outlook essentially on this championship at this moment. This is round 6. So far I had pretty bad results. I couldn't really get the car to handle as I wanted to, and the last race at what was it? The last race was at Red Bull Ring. Yes, Red Bull Ring. There it just didn't work. Now, I'm technically running here with 10 kilos of weight ballast because if you get in the last 2 races at like top 5 finish, you have some sort of weight ballast. Not particularly concerning in this case, because 10 kilos isn't that much, as I'm running completely wide because you can't drive that corner even under formation in 6th gear. Now, coming onto the straight, I'm starting to essentially preheat my brakes. This is very important with the LMP2 compared to most cars, which really it doesn't matter if you... Yes, you can overheat the brakes. Yes, they aren't as efficient as they should be if you undercool them. But if you're in the LMP2, if they're cold as you're coming out of the pits, you're just fucked. There has been people crying as they drove a car or again, they forgot to map the starter because they're idiots. Anyway, back onto topic here. So I'm not particularly in any position for the championship. I really signed up for this championship, which is 100-minute races, because I wanted to get some LMP2 experience, as we are gridding now up side by side as we reach the end of sector 2, and we're now going side by side formation with max has on my left hand side. He will get the jump on us, as I'm going to slightly spoil up ahead. But this is... But the thing is, why I'm performing way better than usual here is that when I opened my setup manager that day before the race, going into practice, and looked at what setups I had lying around, I found that, oh yeah, I had a setup by Miguel San Mateo, which was probably from Silverstone when we ran an M1 there. And so I had that setup lying around. As we now going green, and Max gets the jump on me going into T1, I'm trying to go for the adventure of finding the apex, which is very much, you just turn in and hope you didn't completely and utterly miss that turn. That is at least the experience with the LMP2. You just hope and pray that you're not completely and utterly wrong with the corner. Now, he is slightly struggling, but really you can't make a pass in these corners. The LMP2 is not designed for that. So I took essentially that Silverstone setup, did some slight modifications to it, and we're now here running with a very stable setup, which I previously struggled with making a setup for a car. So thank you, Miguel, for submitting me accidentally a setup. I'm very appreciative of this one. It has brilliantly worked for me in this race, as we're going to see soon. So, coming up to the end of lap 4, the leaders have started to build out a gap. Turned out that I was faster than the guy who should have qualified behind me, and I just shifted the car into neutral by accident. But yeah, that happens. So, coming up to the start. We have a start finish line. I lost that lap quite some time and was now over a second down on the guy. But as we're coming through the S's, he's just, well, the gap calculation for the right hander is bad. For some reason it's the RF2 based one. Coming through these fast sweepers, he just loses so much time, and I was actually starting to get annoyed really at that point. And as you can hear now, a fucking joke, honestly. I'm just out cornering completely. There was mild contact there. Come on, draft. Come on, game. Give me some draft. It's like no speed advantage, no speed advantage, no speed advantage. Some argy-bargy, and I'm fast finally. So that was live commentary from the race, and I will use this at some points again. But it wasn't particularly clean as pass, but I got past it. Now we're jumping a lap ahead, and we are now on the end of lap 6, coming up on some GT traffic. I've not really gapped the guy behind, but the guy that was following me, who was really was putting pressure on me in some way, is still obviously there, and we're now essentially a free counter rate. I got past the Corvette a bit dodgy, but not too badly, and now I've got clean air for the S's, which is really important, because you don't want to catch the GTs in the S's. However, as I will show later, there is a way worse spot in the S's. Like, the main S's you don't particularly care if you catch them there, but in that last corner that you just saw, that right-left combination of the S's, that one you don't want to catch the GTs. So the both guys behind me have cleared the traffic as well. I've got a slight gap out of that. But in the previous lap I also had gapped them in sector 1 and lost most of the time in the next sector. We're now running down the second group of GTEs, braking in down from the long straight and now coming into the tilt section. I've turned on the headlights, as you can see in the dashboard, where my speedometer is underlaid green. I have the headlights on, so the GT is having an easier time seeing me. That doesn't particularly make much of a difference, just not much. I've cleared the Porsche on the inside coming into the long right-hander. Penultimate turn, third gear, and then heading into the final turn. Not missing my braking point there, but braking a bit too early. But I had a problem of missing it way too often. Now drafting past the BMW and heading up to turn 1 and seeing an entire gaggle of cars that I will have to face down in the next section of corners. And this is really, you don't particularly want to lose much time, but causing an accident is really stupid and something completely honest. So I'm close to a GT, I drive around the outside of this turn, and now we catch them in this section. There's a GT spawn out there, so yellow flags. But really, you can't particularly do much. Not that I was held up in this case too much. And also this kink is incredibly dodgy to pass through on the inside, because you will run wide a bit and GTE will, as that GTE just did, run wide on the exit of that turn. But you will just, as an LMP2, slightly run wide. Not really wide, but you just need a bit more road than the GTE has to essentially give it to you, while it's being dodgy for the GTE to give you actually a road without running himself off the road. So then coming into making my section again, I've increased my gap even further, but nearly just lost the hands there on the power. So we have now I mean, there's 4 seconds gap up to second place in this race. I think this is a good time to mention, essentially, this is the first time I ran the series livery. I've been assigned the Red 99 car, essentially that vehicle I need to use. However, I can run a custom livery, and I decided to, from our Barn SimSport team, which I'm manager of. We don't have any action of the team this week. It's mostly just me racing in the different leagues I race in. We have a major event next week with on the 7th of April, the Dubai 4 Hours in CFAC, which we have 3 Porsches running at and 1 LMP2. And this is essentially delivery of the LMP2. Just actually with different number plates, because this has number 35 still on it, and our LMP2 will feed the number 38 now. But during WSCC we had the number 35 on the car. So we're starting to get through the spares section of the GTE field, and really the gap has actually come down again as I spoke. And the tires are starting to go way under my car, making minor driving errors. And this will be really the problem of me, that my tires are actually fading. Not too unusual, I have a tendency to drive the tires off cars, but it still ended up happening here really intensely. After the first section, where I was definitely faster than Max House and essentially on pace with the other guy, coming at the end of lap 9, the pendulum seems to have started swinging in the opposite direction. So we're now jumping up ahead to lap 15 and we're heading up to a GT. But we're very closely followed, as my tires are starting to not particularly make the best of me. And this GTE ran wide through the turn, and I really didn't have much of a choice and just ran off the track. But he let the other guy, he wasn't able to let the other guy, I'm not saying he had any Lichten, the GTE, but he let the other guy fairly easily through. Now coming up to the hairpin, I jump up the inside to defend a bit and make a terrible way through turn 1. He got very close, but the nature of the LMP2, you can't really pass. He's just stuck in the dirty air of the car directly in front of you. So really, and running wide there, going down just second as I always do. Coming through here, feathering the throttle, just trying to survive on the tires. And usually if we hit that point with my old setups, I started to run into real issues of the car just spearing out of control. But this car stayed stable, very smoothly. The guy is fairly close behind. But, I mean, if it would be GTEs, this would be worrisome, but with these low drag LMP2s, not so much. So we're heading up to the braking zone. I slightly whisper braking, lock the rears, run off the road, and then put too much power down and get nailed into the side from him. So yeah, I'm now down to 5th. Brilliant for this mistake. So now I have 5 seconds to gain back. And this will be an interesting one because I'm currently struggling on tires. So we're now here on lap 18, heading up to some GTE traffic while we're on the S's. And we're going to hit the GTE in the worst spot possible. In the worst possible spot. I just can't. The fuck. Just look at this. You can't do anything about them. That GTE holds you up so much, it's insane. You just can't do anything about them. If they hit you in that section, you're just done. So we're at the start of the next lap. I lost in that lap. Like we had over the last few laps not lost much time to the last guy, his 6th place car in LMP2. But on the last lap with running with GTE traffic and running wide a few times, I lost the entire 2 seconds gap I had on him, and he's right at my tail end. As we're cutting through the corners, swing it left-hander here, you suddenly see rapidly the gap declining and a yellow flag, and there is Max. He has spun out here as my fuel warning light comes on for 5 laps to go. So I have only 5 laps of fuel remaining on the fuel tank, which I mean still means I have nearly 10 minutes worth of fuel in the fuel tank. So we're coming up at the end of lap 21 as we are starting to run out of fuel. We have essentially 2 laps worth of fuel remaining in the fuel tank, but just there Max decided to come into the pits behind me. And to explain the race strategy and what I essentially plan, what I usually do in these 100-minute races, you need to pit twice with the LMP2 to make the race distance. Now what I usually do is put 75 liters in at the start, which I did here again, then put another 75 liters with and take tires, because tire change adds another 14 seconds, so you need to consider that, and then drive those tires till the second pit stop, which is essentially just a splash and go. These LMP2s last roughly 39 minutes on a tank of fuel. Or 40 minutes, because it's been 40 minutes since the race start. So because of my struggle with the tires, my decision was that even when essentially taking a half tank of fuel to finish the race, I need to essentially take a fresh set of tires then. So why not distribute essentially the driving time on these 2 fresh set of tires that I would get evenly by short fueling next time, which will also bring me closer to Simon Fillingman, the guy that essentially, one of the 2 guys that passed me, with Max being the other one that ended up behind me again before he pit. So I will be coming in this lap even though I could have gone another lap. The guy behind me who have gapped again, he will continue another lap. That also leader, but I'm now coming in for some fuel service, putting the car into neutral when entering the pit lane, and now searching for where my pit arrow is. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And just losing the position, and here is it. That's the race leaders, by the way, in front of me. Putting the car out just because you don't particularly want to waste fuel, etc. So we have 26 seconds of fuel. Full fuel is 33 seconds, and we get some additional time for these 14 seconds for tire change. This is really fast, but yeah. So we're coming up at the end of the pit stop, just being released, and Simon had pitted the same lap as Max, and it is really a drag race, as you will see in a second. He just passes me there, and I'm just coming out of the pit, so I just about missed out on him. Essentially, if I would have taken 5 less liters on the pit stop, then I would have easily beaten him out of the pits, but now it charges on for me to just use the best of my fresh tires and low fuel to get past him. Because the thing is, I have to, he has probably done a full fuel, so he has to not pit again. He will save essentially those 6 or 7 seconds that I saved on the pit stop. As I'm just running up his inside, coming into this corner. Beautiful pass. And now running onto the straight and hoping he doesn't use the draft to pass me. But essentially I have to gap him by about these 7 seconds, which I would have saved if I wouldn't have. Would have saved on the second pit stop, but now I have to essentially take those, because in total I have to still take this roughly 100 liters worth of fuel at the end of the on board. If I do that do 75 in the first one, or just do 20x from the second one, is totally irrelevant. So I have to now start gapping him. However, Max had actually dropped back far. That was because he actually got stuck in the pit stop. However, what I was thinking that perhaps Max took tires and Simon didn't. Turns out, both of them took tires. It was just Simon actually took mediums and didn't swap in the second. However, we are just coming up for a bad surprise. But I find interesting, Pavlov overtook us. So he went on the same strategy as I did, to short fuel the car. That is very interesting. So now sitting right behind him, essentially, and trying to perhaps find a way past. He seemed to, as you see here, to struggle very bit. I get here, run on the left hand side and just drive around the outside into the S combination that you usually can't pass even GTs through. But I was able. So perhaps me at that point in time thought very well that he perhaps went in the same strategy, but it's more realistic that he actually full fueled. He just didn't take tires, and that is why he ended up in the fight with us. Into lap 28, and we're heading into the S's, and I just brake too late, go off the track and get a track warning. We had a slight gap of about 4 seconds behind, but I had over the last lap also made minor mistakes and just not been able to draw out the gap. To Simon, who was now behind me, he had got past Pavlov, who's dropping back. It just supports my theory that he probably didn't change tires in the pit stop. Now heading up to the straight. As I said, I need to draw essentially a gap of 6 seconds out here, and I'm starting to struggle for pace here, and making such mistakes where just run off the track is just something you cannot afford in my position. However, and especially the risk of getting penalty. And here I just put again too much right foot down and nearly spin out the car completely. I make a detour through the grass, but lost 2 seconds doing this. That's something that I just can't in this pit strategy afford. The classic saying, when it can't get worse, it will get worse significantly. Now we jump to the end of lap 35. I wasn't till this point really able to draw out the gap. Still kind of struggling essentially at the end of my tire's life. Not really the end, but it's just they've been worn more than softs, but my advantage of low fuel is going away. So generally my car's fast, it's just very unpleasant at the moment to drive. Wait a second, he's in the pits, He just entered the pits. He's performing an undercut on me. And then at the end of the lap I also came in to essentially cover him off and overshot the pit entry, but whatever. I took their 46 liters of fuel and I decided that it would be a better idea to just take tires. So stick with my strategy of taking tires, even though I was very sure that with the small gap he had that's behind me, that he didn't take tires. So we're skipping the pit stop. Max Haas has come in and essentially parked in front of me. I'm now coming out 20 seconds behind Simon, which is very surprising. Now on lap 40, I had over the last laps fought through this entire thing and come to the conclusion that he couldn't have taken on enough fuel to make the end of the race. And I finally realized that it could have been that he just came in to serve a stop-go. And as it turns out at the end of this lap, has it just come in? It seems, yeah. So it was a stop-go. But passing Simon only promoted me up to P4, as with my pit stop also Pavlov went past me. And for quite a few laps he didn't come in, even though with the 40 minutes roughly for a stint of an LMP2, he should have come in at about the 20-minute marks. However, it was lap 45 when he then finally came in with only 13 minutes to go and restored my faith into my mathematics. So on to the final lap, lap 53, and nothing really major has happened. I drew out a bit of a gap because Simon and Pavlov ended up fighting a bit because Pavlov came right out with him. However, Simon ended up sticking to 4th place and Pavlov dropped back again. And in terms of fuel, as I've shown in this clip, I have a fuel calculator and in my dashboard, which calculates using the amount of time left divided through the laps that I can do and the fuel I have already on board. It calculates how much fuel I need to add. And I usually take a margin of a lap or 2 laps, and in this case this margin of a lap came essentially back and I had that still left, plus the amount of fuel that wasn't a complete lap came essentially back to me again. The gap is coming down because of how the gap is calculated at this point. I think RF2 is not even giving out gaps anymore, it's just grabbing some gap value via my elaborate math function. Yes! 3rd place. That's... not ABS. TC. No, don't roll backwards. Yeah, he is not particularly pleased about that race. He more or less threw away this position with his stop-go. Because without it, that cost about 30 seconds. Without it, he would have been in front of me. That's a gravel. Well, I didn't expect you gravel. lap. The race was won by Tony Ukik in front of Mikko Kolkowski. This being my first podium finish in this championship, and also the first time when I actually finished on the lead lap, as I didn't do that in the last 4 races, and I missed the first round due to SRCA. This puts me now in 4th place in the championship. However, Simon Philingman is fairly close with only 2 points behind me, but Max Haas has on the other hand a 35 points gap to me, so he's pretty safe from me. He might have a chance of going at Tony Oki, but if he continues to have results like in this race, he won't get at Tony Oki. Also, there are only 2 rounds to go, so this is getting spicy up at the front, but really what is my interest now is scoring in front of Simon Philingman to perhaps secure 4th position in the championship. So coming up to the second race of the week, which was the Friday Simracing GP.net Automobilista MCL series, which is a 30-minute series. This is the 4th round, which is the final round of the championship. Now, sadly, I forgot to record footage while driving, so we have only the replay to go. This is the starting grid. I'm in the black, white, and a bit of red MCR on the 3rd row, on the right-hand side. There. And yeah, I didn't have the greatest of qualifyings, but I'm usually a very good starter, as we will see now. As you see, coming out of turn 1, I'm already up to position 3, which is a really good start, but it will go down from here very soon. I have somewhat of a gap now to the car in front, and those are 2 very fast drivers. But the guy that I have directly behind me in his iconic yellow and black livery, Simracing GP, aka the guy that runs the league, is now right at my tail end. He's usually not particularly the greatest at qualifying, but in this occasion out-qualified me, which should make you incredibly worried because he usually gets faster in race than he gets qualified. Like, he will put race laps in that are usually faster than his qualifying time, and especially at the end of the race. In the beginning he isn't particularly fast, however he will demonstrate in a few turns that he has the pace on me already at this stage. Now, coming into the final turn, I lock up the inside wheel a bit, and he gets better run out of the turn. We're going side by side, coming up to the line to finish lap 1. He's up my inside, and brakes late, goes some sliding, and completes the pass successfully. Wide rescue move, a bit uncharacteristic, but sure, team made it stick. Now, I had 2 guys now behind me, and Simracing GP already drew out some form of a gap. But as we so now jumping ahead to lap 3 and going into turn 1, the gaps at both ends have increased, but I will now contribute to changing this by making a mistake in turn 1, putting the car 90 degrees sideways and dropping to P6, which is more or less literally last. But to come back to the race, in the same lap in the chicane you saw something yellow in front of yourself. Well, it turns out there's a GP braking from the chicane, braked to a reasonable point, and it just lost his rear end going in. And he dropped that way 2 positions. It is with these cars fairly easy to just lose the back end. You have to essentially constantly either apply brake or apply pressure while cornering. Otherwise your car will just be out of control, and as you see, I'm not actually that far behind. There's still a sizable distance now. At the beginning of the lap this gap was close, even though we were both 2 positions high up. Now, we're jumping quite far ahead now in lap 16. In the meantime, nothing special has happened. And now something happened because one of the two guys in front of me had spun. Coming into turn 1, he drove in the corner. Drove a bit too far out, put down too much throttle on the grid and spun. Luckily for him, got very quickly pointing the right way and was able to accelerate down speed. So on the next lap, as we're showing Mazek, who's running third at the moment with SGP behind, coming out of the chicane, puts down too much throttle and spins out, and you saw me there, background, closing up. However, I wasn't close enough to capitalize on his mistake, and on the following lap, heading into the chicane, I don't particularly contribute to closing up to him by running off the road. And this wouldn't be the only time I do that. On lap 19, coming into the chicane again, I brake too late and go a bit more rally crossing. This time actually getting a warning for track limits. Now on lap 20, we're coming through turn 1 as the guy behind me has learned out of his first mistake and ran completely wide. We're driving through the left hand and Mazek suddenly stood there, spun out. Now I had to slow down a bit, and this has now given the guy behind me the opportunity to close up to me. And you see right behind me now, and we're just about jumping ahead to the end of the lap and start of lap 21, and he's right at my tail end coming into T1. He's darting around looking to perhaps find an opening. My usual defense of driving is I stick to the racing line. I don't particularly defend as he just runs wide out of the turn, doing some lawn mowing. Again, perhaps having a look on the inside, but he isn't close enough to do anything. These cars aren't particularly easy to pass, especially as they don't particularly brake that long. I'm going a fairly defensive line. Here's again a look, but nowhere close enough to make a move. We're coming through the chicane. My running twice demonstrated, I'm kind of struggling for grip at this point. It's kind of a theme, I always struggle for grip. Coming into the fast right-hander, it's just you brake and downshift one gear, and just try to carry the corner speed. I didn't carry much corner speed on exit, and he's right behind me having a look, but thinking better of it. I lock again the inside wheel, and he's right behind me coming up to the line. Now tucked behind me and deciding actually not to go up my inside. So we drive for T1, I go completely sideways, gather it all up again, but he's now on my right hand side, going for the right hand kink in a left hander. He runs a bit wide and essentially can't stick it around the outside. It's also very hard. As you see in the foreground, SGP has drawn quite a bit of a gap, and we have also quite a bit of a gap to Mazek behind. So, running up to the chicane again. I have somewhat of breathing room, however he's definitely very fast and very keen to getting past me. And now he's right up my tail again as I'm a bit careful braking, and just run off the track again. So up the hill with him very close and swinging out to have an attempt at the inside, drawing side by side with me, but I have the overlap in the front and was able to stick it around the outside. He has again a look up the inside, but decides to put back and now going for the right hander. He's right behind me again, running up to the line. Just look at this, he's tucked right behind me, and we're now on the final lap. He has a look at the inside, but doesn't draw turn by side. Both of us on the gridding on the outside of T1. Again, he has a look on the right hand, but this time drops behind me coming out of the turn. And has a look on the left hand side, forcing me to go defensive on him, because I can't just move back to the racing line because he's there. Brakes later, and now goes for a beautiful cutback on me, and has the run out of the turn, drawing fully side by side. And as we're getting out of a helicopter shot, I'm yielding and just letting him essentially go, not risking losing to Mazek, who's the guy behind me in the championship. Coming into this round, I was third in the championship, and Mazek was only point or two behind me, so I was like, I'm yielding to this guy who's not in the championship fight, because it's an open server, the AMS Sprint Series, you have sometimes randos, and he is essentially this rando, and I'm not the race king, losing a significant portion of points by spinning. Even though it was only at this point 6 cars running, and as we're coming up to the line, I finished 5th, essentially finished where I started. And yeah, so in the end I kept 3rd position in the championship with 19 points in total. Mazek had only 14 points in the end, so really he wasn't able to challenge at all, and I just made there. I mean, there wasn't particularly much that I could do in that situation, just yielding. Simracing GP kept 2nd place in the championship with his 3rd place finish, and Andy Greer Hardy completed the championship with a 3rd win in 4 races with 30 points in total. Now on to race 3 of the week, which was Saturday in the morning, 11 AM, the World Sim Sports USF Classic Series. Now, I've actually recorded here the footage of my qualifying lap, and you might notice something different that I have now leaderboard up. Between Wednesday and Friday, I figured out that you can how to actually record the dashboards in a reasonable manner. Before that, I just used a game capture, punched with a filter 2 holes into it for the pedal inputs and my main dashboard. But the problem with, you might have noticed with the first clip with the Lichten race, is I'm putting in my fastest time, is that the transparency obviously doesn't work. Because the reason why I punch holes into it and then do a desktop recording of the dashboard, so I still have that corner where the dashboard is in its transparent section, but the thing is that you don't want to record in OBS with a dashboard recording gameplay because it's just janky. Because I'm just finishing up that lap. Now this series is the penultimate run at Palm Beach. After my first lap, tried to put in another one and then lose control for a counter wall. I ended up qualifying, ended up gaining 1 position due to one guy dropping off the server as we're going onto our formation lap. Now this series is 20-minute races, but it's 2 races, so this is the first race, and the second race is with reverse grid from 10th to 1st, and we just jumped the formation lap and gridding up and getting ready to start the race. Now, it's also a fixed setup to notice. The thing was, I came into qualifying actually without any practice on the track. Now, if I had run this track last year in VSC1, as the lights go green, but really this makes it easier for me to just jump in and drive with fairly little practice. But the problem I have is that this setup is, because it's made for general driving purpose. It has a tendency to understeer. As I'm attempting a pass on second place guy, I immediately got off the line fairly well, which is surprising. Easy USF 2Ks have a very long first gear, and I have a tendency to not particularly get the best launches with them. But I got a really good launch off the line and got into third, and I'm now challenging for second place as we're coming around these corners. However, I'm here running with a 25 kilo weight penalty due to being third in the championship at that point. And this round actually was kind of bugged because second place in the championship should have had a 50 kilo weight penalty. The first place should have had a 75 kilo weight penalty. But the second place anyway DNF'd out of the second race and was a non-factor in the first race. And the other guy, he won the second race, but probably wouldn't have changed anything. So we're coming up to finish first lap, so we're jumping up to lap 5 because not much really has happened in the meantime. Oh god, no, don't go. And now he's up my inside. Luckily I can defend. But that is the danger. I make a minor mistake. He's right up my dive bombing me. And this guy in front of me, he can afford a minor mistake like that. Yeah, I'm known for that. Like that is a bit more major than a minor mistake. Sorry. Because of the fucking commentator, I'm so sorry. I mean, the position is for free, but I still have fucking killed the wrong behind me. Fucked. So yeah, I got a free position there, but we were really struggling with front tire wear, and while I'm now in second place as you the error, Kelvin had already pushed hard on me and was ready to pass me in this moment. Got up my got the draft and got up my inside. I really had no pace, and I wouldn't have passed the other guy if he wouldn't have made that mistake essentially and spun out. Now cutting ahead up to lap 9, and we have Paul behind us, and I'm doing the same mistake. I run wide and Paul gets up my inside. Then I get more understeer coming through the corner, and he completes the pass successfully. At this point, we're we're trying to essentially hold on. I couldn't get the performance really out of the car. I mean, I had some department of face on bad, but it's just I was hurting very much for tires on the setup. Coming on to lap 13, the guy that's like, I took that corner more than wrong. He just, where's your, hello, stop it. Yeah, that was more than just a bit of defending, but Christ, that was... Like, he got speed from nowhere mid-corner. Essentially, he had closed up significantly, but I was able, with that questionable defense also, to keep up ahead, and we're now on lap 16, it's the final lap of the first race. The cars in front of me have just completely annihilated me, and I was barely hanging on. So we're coming through. But he hasn't closed up too far. But he's close and dangerous enough. On the straights, on the long straight, I was kind of struggling. But for example, when I was on a draft, it just would completely cancel out the 25 kilo weight penalty. So, and they got obviously more speed out of it. He gets a twitch in the final turn, which gives me somewhat of an advantage. So when we're running up to the final turn of the lap, here I have somewhat of a gap, but he is still, the brakes very late, but it's just too far back to make a move on me. Granted, the race is now over. It's like, yeah, I just realized this is the final lap. Ooh boy. Yeah, he's not pleased with one of my defensive moves. I mean, in the end, after starting 4th, we ended up finishing 4th, even though we technically qualified for 5th, but we ended up just... So we ended up... this is a half decent result, but I have in this series 1 win technically, but it got redacted from me because of because I had an avoidable contact earlier in that race and got a 10-second penalty. So I'm definitely in a winning pace. So we're now on reverse grid. I'm starting 6th because somebody who was in the top 10 dropped off left the server after the first race. So we're jumping the formation up again. I'm warming up my tires and then just go complete and utter retard. Just why? I mean, it's possible. Yes, you can pass people under the formation levels, but you're just causing a mess, and I just would like, what the actual fuck was I thinking in that moment? Like, what the fuck was wrong with me there? So we are gridded up and ready to go racing. Or if the start finally starts. And the green flag is preparing. And some people are jumping the start behind us, which is great. There will be some penalties for jump starts, I guess. Whoa! The fuck's sakes! What the fuck? Okay, my race just got ruined by somebody drilling me to sides in turn 1. What the fuck was that? So yeah, it's when we have a look at the replay, it's Calvin Wong starting directly behind me. As Paul and the second place guy in the championship make a jump start. He tries to go in the middle of us, but there's not space, and then just tries to go again there, and it's just like, no! No, the fuck, what are you thinking even? So, back to the race, we are now on lap 3, and Benjamin, the winner of the first race, just spun off the road. He got past me because of the accident of me getting spun out, but now we're past him. This was, however, not to be for too long, as on lap 5 he had closed whatever gap I had for him, spearing off into scenery up, and he was right behind me. And the themes of the first race repeat as I'm starting to struggle for grip of the car. However, against him, even with a well-handled race car, I have a chance. So we're running wide here a bit, doing some rally crossing. He has a look up the inside, but he can't quite make the move stick, and I'm not again being retarded and shut the door on it. So coming out of this turn, I get a decent exit, but he's close enough to now finally draft past me. And in some way I wanted him to get past, because if he scores about 5 points more than me in this race, he would be in front of me in the championship and will get the 50 kilo weight penalty for the final route, not me, as the second place guy who jumped the start DNF'd, and I'm essentially, as we're going to see later. So we jump up ahead now to lap 12. Gigantic jump, yes, but that's because just nothing really happened. Like, sure, Benjamin passed a whole bunch of people, himself up to 3rd position. He will go up to 2nd till the end of the race, and Edmund Wong got past the guy that is now in front of me. I closed the gap slightly down to Matthew, who's the guy in front of me, just to drive off on the right hand side. I have Dimitri, the guy who fought with me at the end of the last race, now again behind me, but I have a comfortable gap to him as we're coming through the final turns. Matthew is a bit wide, but I don't get particularly the exit speeds. I'm just trying to get some sort of draft, but there is not much coming off the car. And I'm taking a look up the inside, but don't really fully commit. Because it would just torpedoing is a stupid thing. And now I put the car a bit on the curb, the rear wheels light up, then take the other curb, and now I'm in the wall and lose position. Absolutely fucking brilliant. Of the most stupid driving mistakes. It will get worse, don't worry. Not this race, but you will have worse examples. So we're jumping now to start of lap 16. Dimitri has thrown a gap out. Previously I was able to go pace with him. And he had actually passed Matthew now. And I now had Paul behind me again. And Paul came in on the first lap because he jumped the start and had to set a stop and go. And he's now right behind me again. So I have now a challenge from him for the last lap, trying to survive as Paul and Dimitri go side by side. Matthew. And Matthew got into the grass. I'm having a way better run. Have a look up the inside, but I can't clear him, similar to Benjamin's attempt. Then I don't particularly get the best run again for that corner. That corner was that corner and the final corner, like penultimate turn technically, because there's a left-hand kink, were the bane of my existence. And I was in the VSC1 race last year, and this is this race again. It's just the bane of my existence, that track. It's not particularly a popular track, and that's kind of why it was run, because it's just classic guys. Eye contest, we're coming up to the line, and I just about secure 8th place. And yeah, secure it because why not? Yeah, it was not a good race, only 8th place. Not a lot of points getting out of this one, as I'm getting one of the Hong Kong racing guys' cars slapped in my face. So Sugarfell is still leading a championship. As you see, has a consistency of like finishing badly in the first race, then getting a lot of points in the second race. At least for the last 2 races, that was the case. Benjamin has only attended 2 of the 4 rounds, but he is now in second place at the championship. I had only scored 12 points this round and 4 points with the second race because of my bad finish. Edmund Wong wasn't able to start the first race because of his disconnect, but he scored good points in the second race, so he's now only 5 points behind me. And this might change because if Kelvin Wong finished in front of Edmund Wong, but I'm too far back from Kelvin Wong that if Kelvin Wong gets a 10-second time penalty, which he probably gets for his stupid move at turn 1, he won't drop behind me, so Edmund Wong will get another 3 points. So that's not particularly great for the championship fight on the Charles Roval. That will be the last round of the championship. I'm probably out of winning a championship, even for Benjamin. It is nigh on impossible. But yeah, I want to secure this 3rd place. I'm probably not able to win a race, but let's see what I can do in the final. So we're now here at race 4, or I mean, if you count the 2 WSS USF 2K races as 2 separate races, that's race 5. But anyway, this is my qualifying run. This is the 2nd lap, which ends up being minorly faster than the first one. I wasn't really completely on pace. My delta is at the moment better, but as soon as we hit sector 2, the time will drop. Now this is the SLGP World Touring Series with the 2 GT3 packs, meaning with the full 10-car grid. And it is a 90-minute series, so there is a pit stop for fuel in the middle, but tires is optional if we take them. And I'm going with soft tires, as I've done so far in the championship. However, slight heads up, this turns out to be not completely the correct strategy, and and also I decided to change it. But anyway, let's not get ahead of myself. Here I missed my braking marker and slide wide and lose quite some time. Also a bit sideways out of here. This is, by the way, the Radical RXC Turbo, which is probably the least popular out of these 10 GT3 cars that are available now, Factor 2. And to be honest, quite rightfully so, because it's quite awful. Like, it has not a lot of power, and therefore not a lot of straight line speed. I mean, the top end is good of the car when you take it to buffers, for example, as people are presumed to write in chat they are about it. But you still, like, on these, even these straights, they aren't particularly long enough. The car stops being completely shit at the end of the straight. Like, it doesn't have much drag, but it's just for most of the straights. I just improved myself to 13th. I end up qualifying 14th, so somebody passed me for the qualifying session is over. However, Christos, who's at the moment set in second, gets a disconnect and doesn't reconnect again. So when we finally get going, we're getting going in 13th position. This is, when you reach chat a bit, it is single file with the pit limiter till turn 4. So we're currently going up single file and we're skipping this phase. And we're just coming here for the right hand at turn 3, as somebody had decided to not follow the starting procedure and fly by everyone. And he proceeds to fly and it just like slows up a bit as we're coming up to the starting line, just around this corner. Not yet, technically. But this is a corner that you also take with a bit more than 100k. That was a problem through turn 2 and the formation, because you usually don't take this corner above 100k. As now this guy just had his false start, lets everybody by because he realized that he just did a false start. It's causing mayhem. So we're coming here. We have Pablo Diablo in front of us, and we're Antlips in a Corvette behind us. Gaps close as I'm closing really up on the braking, going aggressive. Having a look on the left hand side, but just not far enough side, as there was a Audi backmarker racing livery. I'm not sure if this guy's backmarker racing, I don't think so, but the Factor 2's livery transfer got a bit wonky as he just gets passed by the Bentley, but and there's a Aston rejoining as well, and there's some car off of the gravel. Everything is happening. It's the first time. I mean, it's fairly civilized, I guess. I mean, I've seen worse. As I'm sitting now behind the Audi to get a bit of a draft to get the job done on the Aston. We're coming into the final turn. The Audi runs very wide. I'm just going to capitalize and slot back in front of him, nearly cutting him off before coming back onto the left hand side of the race. The Audi decides not to go into my slipstream, which is interesting. And then he decides to jump back a bit. I don't know, perhaps hit the brakes, perhaps not go. Usually this isn't something that happens. And you just go for the left hand, and we have now a bit of room in front. Probably the other is usually a very fast driver. He's faster than me usually. He, at least in the past, he had struggled with overtaking, where he lacks the aggressiveness to pass. I had infamously with him a 30-minute touring car race at Silverstone, where I passed him and another guy at the start, so I got to 3rd place, and I kept 3rd place for the rest of the race. So we're just sliding through corners here, and the Audi is not particularly far behind. There's only 4 10s. So going here into the braking set for the hairpin. We've also closed up a bit to the Bentley, however. The Audi is going to be a threat to come the end of the lap. Or is he? Because he is struggling a bit for these corners here at the moment. There's a bit of, I mean, there isn't much breathing room. We're still underneath a second to a car in front, underneath a second to a car behind. The Audi is right at our tailgate, coming out, but I just get the better exit, which is usually the thing with Radical, but this doesn't get confirmed particularly much in this race. You usually get about 20 to 80 meters out of the turn where you just have the punch, because your car, because the main advantage of Radical is it's cornering. If you don't have power to put down the straight, you might have top end speed because the car is basically a drag, and you can run it with basically wing. I had in this race on the setup 4 wing. This car comes default with 12. But probably if I take a Porsche and put 8 wing on it, which is take 4 wing off the car essentially, because the Porsche starts also with 12 wing standard, you will out drag this car even if the Radical would sit in the slipstream. As the Audi has now closed up very much, it's having a look up the inside, but not close enough and not committed enough to making the attempt into the turn. And we're now coming into the S section again, which is low wing was really practical. Probably with Porsche you actually need the wing to stabilize the car for this section, but the low wing actually helped turning it, and was somewhat important. This setup I worked quite a bit on it, and because you really need to work on the setup to get any pace of Radical. I am just saying I was kind of disappointed with the result of this race. We're currently running in 10th, which is really good. I'm mainly aiming with most races to just get a 10th position finish. Just getting that, but so far in this race has gone really well as we're approaching the final corner, the penultimate turn. Very difficult corner. I'm not sure if the Radical is actually that much easier to drive, as the Audi gets a twitch behind us and has now the BMW of Dennis right behind them, and they will start a tussle. So we're jumping from end of lap 3 to the beginning of lap 5, and I just missed my braking into turn 1, or I just a bit of rear locking. So I adjusted the brake bias and moved a bit of brake bias reverse. You would say this is completely and utterly anti-competitive. Problem with the Radical is, it has, as you see, 58% brake bias. It doesn't have enough brake cooling in the front. I'm running no brake plug black, by the way. And as we have just here, there was an accident here, it seems, and we have now a McLaren it was just overtook. But let me finish my thought about the brake ducts. Essentially, you have the front brakes of the Radical are overheating, so at the end of the braking zone, the front discs aren't effective enough, but the rear brakes aren't overheated yet. So we end up with the rear brakes still grip, and then get oversteer like that. So I moved the brake bias rearwards to just compensate against that. As we're now in a situation where we have Simon Marshall in front. I'm usually roughly the pace of Simon Marshall, which is, for some reason, GT3's cars don't particularly work with me. I just can't get them to the pace that I want them to. And also, I'm in a Radical, which is frankly underpowered. BOP is just fun for this car as well. But because so little people are driving, we can't be 100% sure, but it's, I mean, you're just getting more of like we're just about to get destroyed by this McLaren, which is very well planned. The thing is, if you for example take the 720S, it's a very well planned car from default, and you just like slightly tweak it to make it better. But this Radical is, you have to start tweaking this thing to make it even half decently handled. Like I took it recently around, I took the bet at Spa, just tried the track, and it turned it nicely through the top corners of the long track, I think comp or something. I'm totally wrong. As I'm now on the inside of the 650S, I am not particularly aiming to overtake him. He is a fast driver, I'm not interested, but my main concern is losing at the moment more positions, which is generally the thing. not particularly interested in going forward. The only way I'm really going forward is I have a guy just thrown into a wall and just die. And this is something that's perhaps going to happen, but my main concern is defending my position. And I have at the moment Dennis behind me, and getting held up like this is practical for me. But to finish the swath, the vet really turned it nicely. Then I took the radicals, like, turned it in and just understeered, just had no grip. This is the cornering ability. I mean, the thing is really, if you would say where the track ride's balance is baffles because you have long enough straight for it actually top speed not being shit. And one of the contributing reasons for this straight line speed disadvantages, which you may have noticed, I'm not using 6 gear. I'm not even coming close. Even at buffers I don't need to use. As we see now here, a car suddenly in gravel truck, and it's Pablo! Where are you coming from? And we're now going to the right hand side of the Bentley, coming down the straight, but the M6 is having more straight line speed and drawing side by side with us. I'm not particularly going risky on the braking, so the BMW gets up my inside and completes the pass. I'm dropping into essentially trying to now defend against the Bentley, which turns out has a shit ton of straight line speed. I'm closing a bit up on the BMW, going into braking into turn 1, and running wide because I cooked it a bit too late. Now the Bentley has the overlap, but I'm on the inside line, and now the vet is on the inside of the Bentley, but this is now a right-hander, so the vet has to go long way around. And yeah, this is slicing and dicing in the best quality. I should stop discussing the card and I'll really just get on with I'm commentating on this. The vet has dropped behind the Bentley, but both of them definitely faster drivers than me, so it's just a question of time until we get past. And I mainly just take the corners. As you see, I've just gapped the Bentley a bit for the corners. The Radical isn't particularly much affected by dirty air, but it's something that when I drove the Porsche in our championship is very heavily affected by dirty air following our car. So you really can't follow anyone. The Radical is like, I guess I don't care. Perhaps because it's general cornering good, except when you don't have tires, but practically no cars are cornering when they don't have any tires. So we just get an oversteer kick out of that turn, which was something I struggled with in I used my buffer server and did some slight tweaks on it. And I had essentially this problem where out of some corners it's just oversteered. Here again I get a slight tweak after a slight lift, and the Bentley also got a bit out of shape, and he dropped back, but he's still fairly close. However, coming into this turn, the vet has now a look up the inside Bentley. Not really close enough, but forces the Bentley to at least give the vet room to not risk getting spun around. And then now side by side coming down the main stretch. As you see, the BMW has vaporized up into the distance. I don't think we will ever meet Dennis in this race again. He finished, I think, 8th in the end or something. So he had really a good race. Now the Corvette has completed the pass. That's the Rookie Monsters Corvette of Yoka. And we are barreling down as we essentially cut ahead, because there wasn't much happening onto the end of this lap. Essentially, you saw that I had quite a gap to that. Well, the vet is now here at the end of the lap. Even though this is corners, this is mainly the domain of the Radicals, should be the corners, as I'm really missing the apex completely. And the vet is usually the straight line speed beast. Well, Yoka had a good setup here, and he just will yeet past me in a straight line. It's the Corvette, it is. I think some people say the best straight line speed car, then I know the Porsche exists, which if you take this thing down to 6th wing on a track like Bahrain, You can be the slowest car on track and nobody can pass you because you just out-drag everyone. As the Corvette proceeds to out-drag me in a straight line. Yeah, that is the fun experience of driving the Radical. You just have cars that literally outpace you and you can't do anything against them, even though you are the car with the lowest downforce on the track. And we're now heading up to the turn 4 again. This was a corner where you had slight issues with the oversteer. And as I wanted to mention, what I essentially did to fix that was tightening the rear anti-roll bar. Yes, tightening the rear anti-roll bar, meaning making it stiffer and increasing the rear ride height. Two things that every setup guide tells you, as I'm getting really out of shape in that corner, are not particularly things you should do to decrease oversteer out of corner. Those are things that will probably increase them. In reality, in this case, actually decrease that. I mean, the reason why it worked with the anti-roll was I looked at the Motec and figured that there was, when I put the tower down, there was very low wheel loads on the left hand, or in the inside rear wheel. So, and that was the reason. Essentially, the inside wheel pushed the car around when I put down power. And stiffening the rear anti-roll bar made it that there was not as little weight on the inside wheel. As we now have the Bentley right behind us, I take a bit too much curb on the inside, and the Bentley will now just proceed to pass, or proceed to perform a flyby, as we don't have any straight line speed to conquer against them. And I get slightly held up here and get then oversteered the twitch, and now I have another Corvette behind me which swings out to the left and proceeds to pass me. And because of my twitch I lost now the draft of Bentley, so now I have to make a late brake move into T1, which actually works way better than expected, but the Corvette taking the outside line gave the Audi a chance on the inside, but the Corvette muscled its way and just outlived the Audi on its inside. So we're now right behind Pablo still, but I mean, he just flexed his muscles on the main straight and will probably even the corners throw away a bit now again. Previously he threw away, so there's no really lot to do again. The vet is again fairly close, even though he lost in the exit of T2 quite some time, as I proceed to lose time coming out of that S section. And then I just brake a bit too late and drop 2 positions. Yeah, and we're now in P14. So that's gone great. We've just lost 1 position compared to our starting position. Excellent. But you think it can't get worse? Well, this is an old saying of me. If you think it can't get worse, you will discover new ways of it getting worse. And just coming into this very tricky corner, the Radical does a BMW on me and spins out. With doing a BMW, I mean, I had a 4-hour race where I had a BMW that did that every lap to me. So now another 2 positions lost, P16. Isn't it great? Directly behind Hablon now, in another Corvette, but he seems to not run Yoka downforce, or at least being about a meter behind the Corvette with his cowl back. You can really see, like, at the end of the straight I start to get a draft, but before that the Corvette was just out-dragging me in a straight line. That's mostly because, yeah, there's not much drag produced at those speeds as I proceed to muscle my way around the outside of him, into essentially getting the inside line on the left hand and just getting myself past him. So we're now jumping ahead to the end of the lap and the Corvette is again right behind me. But you see in the rear view mirror something. Well, that's Kashiv. second radical in this race. We have 37 cars on this grid. As far as I know, actually every car is represented, and there are 2 radicals. 2. And in total 2 in this entire championship. And we now have the only other radical directly behind us. Yay, that's awesome. So we are jumping right ahead to the end of this lap, and we find a car off the racetrack. Interesting. As we find another car in front. That's Houndini, a Mercedes. He is a really good driver usually, but he seems to have gotten tangled. As we come to the right hand, and we find the vet that was previously chasing us, so we are now up to P13 again for the pass of Hablom in that fashion, and the 2 cars are just spun. But we now have a radical behind me as the Chief proceeds to run a bit wide for the corner. But he's close and he's definitely charging. He started 20th in this race, so he has been over the last few laps, constantly gaining on us, and he will make move as we have a bit of argy-bargy in front of us. Houndini trying to get his positions back, and now the radical has closed up and is now on my slipstream. It seems he's running even less fast in the straight line. As he drafts on my inside, I'm braking very late, trying to stick it around. I can't go close the door now. As he proceeds to try to make a move, and he doesn't. I just about survive around the outside this time around, and just about make it. Because there's a group of 3 cars in front of us, blocked up by that Audi that we previously had, and we do have the radical close behind us. Well, this is a good time to perhaps mention this championship at the moment. This is round 3. Round 1 was Daytona. It was kind of a bad race. I couldn't get the car working for me at all. Round 2 was Bathurst. Probably the best track for America. I was running decently well for what I thought, and as I just proceed to run wide in this turn, and now I have Kashif on my left hand side, I lift slightly to avoid spinning over the bumps that are there, and I just about make it so Calblom has a look up the inside of the radical. But as I wanted to say, Bathurst, I came onto the end of lap 6 and the spring in my brake pedal broke and the car was on drive. There's a vent flying off into the gravel trap, and I have now a radical 2/10 behind me. And you know what that means? I'm not driving a Porsche without a rear wing, so obviously he will get a draft, obviously he will have a look at my inside. Nearly bang doors there, and I come off the turn, a bit squirrely the car, and I immediately force myself in front of that Corvette so I can get into the slipstream of the radical. The draft is still not really working. No. So I'm a 10th behind him, and I still go for a very ambitious lunge up the inside, trying to complete the pass. I'm not quite clear, and then just get slightly tangled and make a visit to a wall and drop a whole bunch of position, and now we're in 20th. Yes, I said it could get even worse. Previously it couldn't get worse, it got even worse. So we're continuing on lap 14, and Hablom, who was in front of us, just decides to stop cornering, and this is the barrier. So lap 16 now, not really anything happening except just in between, except there are these things that I'm cut into where the car in front of us rests somewhat just off the track. And then lap 18, we're now in P17 for the car getting eaten off into the distance, and another guy had already pitted at this point. There are 56 minutes, no, 52 minutes as they're one of the McLarens decides to make my life easy and passing them is just running off the racetrack. And now we are lap 19, and look who rejoined again the racetrack in front of us. It's Chief. So he had some driving error and is now in front of us again. So at the end of the lap, we come around the corner, and who do we find again? It's Pablo. Everybody in the gang is again back together, it seems. Well, it seems at least. So let's see what is going to happen in the next few laps. So coming around the hairpin, we have AppQ behind us and we have Kashif in front of us. So jumping onto the next lap, lap 20, and AppQ is fairly close behind us, and running wide like this will definitely make an opportunity, as he has a look on my left hand side, but again not quite close enough to make anything decisive. Like corner was a right hander, so it's just now a bit behind us, coming into the left hand king. As AppQ proceeds to get some oversteer and it spins out. It's very hard to see actually in the rear view mirror, but he will now rejoin and take somebody out, and that guy will proceed to now complain in chat very soon. Just like that, even though the rules say you should write chat. Well, disagree the rules. So I hadn't at that time noticed, but you might have noticed that eventually it's closing down on me. Yeah. I don't know what is going on. Things are going on. Where are you coming from? Yeah, it was like, that was my genuine reaction. At this point I was kind of starting to fuse a bit, as you notice I'm short shifting the car essentially on my dashboard on the second to last red light, just to save a bit of fuel, and the Corvette got fairly close to me again, but he decided to make an adventure into grass. So we're now on to lap 22, and the Corvette has closed up again, and we're just running into the hairpin. And I'm not particularly making the best line, and the car kicks around an exit. I make a bit not nice defensive move, and then proceed to run a bit onto the curbing as the bat flashes its lights. Yeah, that was not particularly nice, but I mean, you weren't going to pass me there. And you're forgetting this is a radical, you could just literally not even slipstream it and you will get past it. It's not a question. If you get past, it's a question of you will get past. As he gets a bit of draft, he was fairly far back, but and that's why he is not particularly going to make a move, and he decides to, well, if you're just going to block me and it's too hard to pass you, I'm going to be coming. Even though it's radical and you can just pass it by not doing anything. So lap 24, we had gained 3 positions through the pit cycle, so no passes, but in front of us Kashif and Pablo have decided now to hit the pit lane, and this is now prompting me to think about coming in. And this is about the time when I realized also that, well, my tires are probably not going to actually last this race, and so I had a thought of actually changing tires. However, it seemed Kashif definitely had changed tires, so on lap 26 so 2 laps later I decided to also come in. I looked at my fuel calc, I took a lap extra, 38 liters, and not tires, because seeing that Kashif dropped essentially off the map while Pablo had a decent pitch, as I proceeded to slightly overshoot my pit stall, and we're getting 14 seconds of fuel. Now, full service is 34 seconds, so we're still not particularly getting anything good. So we're now in back to P15, but we're briefly in P9, but we're now when we were just continuing to drop positions, there's some people that haven't pitted yet because you can go a bit further on the pit cycle. And we're now in P19, and there's the race leader that I nearly just crash into by running wide. Yes, this is brilliant. So yeah, this is the race leader, Moritz Mail from Team Smoking. He is a fast boy. As we also have on track actually in front of us Ben Bob, which is the McLaren has just passed the Merc there, and the race leader. There was a Porsche spun out, I completely actually missed that while driving. I gained a position there, and now we're going around the outside of the Mercedes, and now on the inside for this bend, and we're just getting past. That's a very interesting pass. Definitely aided by that Merc probably sitting on just dead tires. He proceeds to a few laps later come into the pits. So we are now in lap 30, and we have in front of us directly is the second place guy of the race, and we're now in P15 as a few more people have come into the pits, and we have too slow an actual driver from Macmillan Racing. He slowed down a bit for letting the second place guy by, which is pretty good, but the thing is, you're giving me such an invitation. It's just something I will obviously take advantage of, as it's now lap 32 and Ben Bob comes into it. Now, Ben Bob before I pitted was 33 seconds behind. He started from the back because he didn't get 12 one time. When he now pitted, he was like 5 seconds up. When he came out of the pits, he was right there, and he's now, it's now lap 37. It's 11 minutes to go, and Ben Bob is 12 seconds behind me. And not only Ben Bob, it's Anatoly and Antipist, the guy who was in the vet early on, who I cut off essentially before he came in, and they were held up behind B. Ericsson before that Dukes, but Anatoly has now come past finally B. Ericsson, and essentially I was sitting on dead tires. The car had no pace. Look at just this delta. It's crazy. There was no pace in the car. I was just holding on for dear life and just trying to make the time go past and hope to hold my position. But there's still 4 minutes on the clock. The time was just ticking down too slowly, and the gap was ticking down way faster than that. As Anatoly now, I'm forced to go defensive. Anatoly, we're more or less on the drag race match in speed. Coming through the turn, he just goes around my outside, like on fresher tires. He fitted out of the front group, so he actually probably took fresh tires in his pit stop. But I proceed to just run the tires of the car. I'm actually getting a bit of a draft of him, but my primary focus is just keeping the lap time up and not losing any more positions. But the race will be a cruel one, as I now have Ben Bob behind me directly, and he will obviously make very short choices out of me, as Pablo had, after his pit stop, dropped very far back and DNF'd. I didn't particularly show that clip, but much point. So we're at the moment in P13 position, started in, but Ben Bob had moved his first sector already like closed down for half a second, and there's no grip in the car. You're pretty fast with the radical for this section, and it's like there's nothing left. An hour 25 on these soft tires, and he's just dead. Yeah, actually in reality Ben Bob was also running soft tires, and he didn't change them, but the difference with him is he's actually a very good driver, and I'm very hard on tires already. So I didn't have tire issues when we did the pre-season race at Sebring, which is the only race where I had a really good result, and now we have the vet behind us, and he's really pushing. Like, I have a feeling he just completely isn't aware of the fact that a radical is so much slower on the straights. And now we're essentially back to P15 as we're getting a bit of a drop. There's nothing I can do. And I decide to now yield to the second place guy who's going through again. As we met earlier. But really, this is. And now we have a bit of a gap to the Ericsson, who I was previously just able to keep in front of and keep the pace in the last lap. So we'll finish on lap 42 with basically no tires left, no grip, nothing. So we'll match our result in Daytona because of my shit result and with my basically no result because of DNF and Bathurst were sitting pretty bad in the championship. So for you, the championship is not turning out particularly great for me. Probably because I for some reason can't completely handle the GT3s, but also the Radical isn't particularly the greatest thing in this pack. And I'm probably more safer pair of hands with cars that usually push higher speeds, where I can just at least defend when my tires go down at the end of the race. But with the Radical, you're kind of screwed with that. You have to go with you have to stick with the cornering speeds, and it's just, as you've seen perhaps in this race, like I perhaps had the cornering speed in the beginning of the race, but even the guys around me were roughly ratcheting me around the corners, and they had a pretty good straight line speed, so it's just, I'm basically not here. So I think this perfectly at the moment sums up. Next round is in 2 weeks, so I have a bit of time to perhaps rethink the setup on the car. But I kind of want to stick this Radical through, because in 2 weeks' time, also on Friday, we will have another race in WSCC, an endurance race of 4 hours, and I want to run the Radical in there, so I kind of want to stick this car out. So for the final race of the week, we are again in the USF 2000, this time around in the SRGP, the Rookie League, or short TRL, round 6 in the B division. Now I'm leading the championship by quite a few points as we're getting on the way for the formation, which is similar to the WTS race the day before, till a certain turn, which is in this case turn 3. Now because the USF 2K doesn't have a pit limiter, we're going at about 100 kilometers an hour. I'm sitting on pole, and I qualified on pole with about 3/10. It was decent, but there was probably still time to find as I'm getting going. I'm more or less prepared for having another race like Portimao, which was 2 races ago, where I just won basically by 10 seconds. Absolutely not. Coming into left-hander here, I brake a bit too late on cold tires, slide out, and this stream is over. And we're dropping positions down to P8, down to P10, and down to P13. But I'm not giving up. Let the Eurobeat intensify as we're now in 14th. Directly behind somebody, slicing up the left-hand side. There is a car rejoining, and we're going 3 wide up the hill, up into P12, hard on the brakes into the corkscrew, coming out of the corkscrew in the end. Let's have this Eurobeat before I get claimed. Yeah, this has not gone as planned. We're now in 10 seconds down from the leader. But we have 11 cars, it's 10 cars between us and the leader, if we need to overtake that. And from this point, there is no chance of race winner. However, I can still tie the championship up, as I just need to essentially finish 5th to claim 26 points. And with my dropped score from the last round, which was the third place finish at Melbourne, which was also a race where I just made too many mistakes. Yeah, I'm slicing in right, having way more corner speed than the guy in front of me, and here just have way more exit. I think he also backed out of it. I'm not going to involve myself in this fight. Going down to second, you can really take this corner in third, and this is why I tried it lap 1, however, on cold tires and cold brakes. Yeah, it caught me out. But here I'm not as careful up the hill, putting a few of the wheels nearly into the dirt and using it but keeping it just under control. Coming into the corkscrew, hard on the brakes. Sliding a bit wide, but not too wide, and we're now at the back end of a 4-car train. Or perhaps even a 5-car train. There's a bit of distance to the first car. We're a bit sideways into the corner, and now we're behind Meshkov and just dive bombing him harder than London in 1940, up into P10. And now we're running down Backmarker Racing's JC Adams. Coming into turn 1, hard on the brakes again. There's a lock-up from Props in front of him. Just, as you can see, I can carry way more. I'm using maximum front and downforce. We just have the exits. We have just corner speed and then the corner exit speed. You just cut and slice up the inside for the next corner. Corner usually don't overtake, but an absolute clean overtake here. On the brakes, down to second gear again, and coming up the hill for the second time. We're now throwing ourselves in this corner a bit more controlled than the previous lap. We're running up to the corkscrew, about 5/10 behind Crops, but this will just evaporate as we're hard on the brakes for the corkscrew, nearly into his rear end. Now having a minor look up the inside, but going for it would just cause an accident. It's silly. I'm just poking essentially a horse. He misses the apex by a mile, but I'm just not in a position to slice it. So here I go for another dive. This time clip the sausage in the inside end. We're through. At the end of lap 3, we're now up to P8. With now our teammate Azalon in front of us. Coming into T1, he runs a bit wide, but has a bit better exit because he took that line, but I'm right behind him. Slicing through this corner. And up into the right hand, I'm carrying way more corner speed than him. And now I'm having a look up the inside into the corner that claimed all those positions. A bit squirrely into it, not particularly the best exit, but we're through, and we're now 2.5 seconds behind the next car, which is Slayer. So there's a bit of a gap that I have to now run down. So we're essentially cutting ahead onto lap 7. I gained 1.5 seconds in that one lap on him, and just gapped Azlon by half a mile. So we're now 5/10 behind Slayer in P6. Coming into the final turn, odds on the brakes, downshifting to neutral again. But this is kind of the issue with the USF. You were first gear, but because the first gear is so long, you downshift again and you just end up in neutral. Because you think there must be just feel. So we just gained the last lap 1.7 seconds, and then I make a successful move into P6 on turn 1. A bit slow for the right-hander here. Next car is 1.7 seconds up ahead. Might slide through the corner. They're coming up to the lander here, and at turn 6, I think it was turn 6. Now coming up the hill. It's turn 5, it's actually turn 5 because our start was in front of turn 3. Right, okay. Counting. Now coming I haven't closed that much up till now on him, so hard brakes into the corkscrew, but the guy in front of him ran wide, rejoined track out of control, and then took him out, so 2 free positions, I guess. I'm kind of sorry for the guy getting taken out, but I mean, it saved me time, I guess. So now there's a more major gap up to David Hudson. So after 5 laps, we are up Jack, essentially seeing the podium positions, but it would take a few more laps. We skip up to the start of lap 9. So we skip 2 laps and we're now 1.5 seconds only behind David Hudson. And running him down hard. He's actually not that far away from the 2nd place guy. You can see him, but we can't see the 1st place guy yet. And you can see the 2nd place guy in the distance. Now this race, compared to the other USF race that I had, this is a 31-minute race because of the formation we're doing. Takes a bit of time, so we're doing 1 minute more. It's a 30-minute race essentially. As I just hit the ping button because David Hudson was jumping around. Seeming, as you notice, he's just slightly jumping around, and it makes me slightly uncomfortable past my turn to go to shit. To get squirrely out of the corkscrew. But yeah, this shouldn't happen, and this is just his internet is basically dying, and we're trying to slash through. We've really closed down on him this lap, but if you have a guy in front of you who's lagging around, it's not particularly easy. We'll go on the outside, he moves to the inside, and he just backs off and let us go. It turns out late after the race he said that he had issues with overheating, so and this will become an issue for us, but he was very extremely hit. He will. Now we jump up 6 laps, which cost me just which I need to gain up to the 2nd place guy. You can see David Hudson has already dropped to 6th position. He's just losing a ton of time. But you're also noticing those 2 temperature numbers on my dashboard are lit up. Yeah, why? Well, above 100 degrees Celsius water temperature, which is the left temperature of those 2, my dashboard goes yellow, just to warn me that the engine is getting a bit hot. However, you're also noticing my oil temperature is over 131 degrees. This car has 129 degrees or maximum safe oil temperature. And you might notice there was a big brief yellow flag, and you see on the leaderboard the gap has suddenly shrunk down from the leader, and there's the leader. You just binned it in the corkscrew. For him, luckily he got essentially away with that without losing a position, but we are now right at his tailgate, and I just nearly lose control of the car coming out of that turn, getting very sideways. But yes, my oil temperature was... So my oil temperature is above the maximum safe, which means my engine is wearing faster. So I'm suffering higher engine wear from that. But this isn't particularly a concern. These engines last fairly long, so they will last the race, since as other man tries to make a move on you, but just can't complete the move and nearly lose control. But coming into this corner, I get a visit from the understeer fairy and just nearly fly off the circuit again. I just about survived that one. So the main problem isn't that my engine will break. I mean, if it continues to heat up like this, the engine will break. But the main concern is in this series you will be penalized when your engine starts smoking. And if you go a certain amount above the maximum safe oil temperature, as we'll discover in a few laps what this temperature is, you get essentially a smoke trailing out of your engine, and you get an engine temperature warning light as well. And in this series, because it's running too much tape is an advantage, and you can get away. This is unrealistic for reasons. Essentially, you will be penalized if you smoke your engine too much. So my goal is to technically avoid that now. as well as trying to continue here racing for the lead. And we're now coming, the leader has come up to a back marker, however he will very much move out of the way. So only Sebastian Vettel can complain about the blue flags now. As this is the back marker that gets through easily. So yeah, I'm short, as you're noticing from previous clip perhaps, I'm short shifting the car, I'm just essentially that way reducing the amount of RPMs the engine pulls. That way there's less friction heat generated, but also I'm reducing the fuel consumption that way, which leads to lowering also the heat generated, because you burn less fuel, you generate less heat. Just systematically saving the engine that way. And now, just for the briefest of moment, you just got essentially smoke. For as we're coming out of the corkscrew and air, you just lost control of the car, took a bit too much inside curve, and we're now up to P2 with 5 minutes to go. And it really has come down. After I spun, I did not imagine to get back to perhaps into a position that I had a chance to go at the race lead. But we're now 1.5 seconds behind the leader, and we perhaps have a car that is just about to combust into smoke for another second or so. Just smokes a bit, and we make our way through turn 1 safely. What? But essentially, the guy in front of me, he's really behind the championship rival. In this position that I'm at the moment here, I will take the championship this round. There's only one more round to go, and as I previously alluded to with dropped score and everything, I will be able to not least, even though the last round will give 2 extra points for finishing it, because it's a 45-minute race rather than a 30-minute race. Even if he wins that race, and even if he gets the bonus point for track limits, he will still not be able to catch me, because I had to only score 26 points in this round. And you get 31 points for winning the race. 1 point for completing 3 race laps, as I'm just completely rally crossing off the racetrack. But you might have noticed something in the background, and I will now show this again. Just look at the rear view mirror, and yeah, I meant to say mistake, but he got too much power down while being out there and spun the car out. So we are now with 3 minutes to go, going across the line. I've lost that lap time, and I just shut down the engine, cut the ignition coming into T1, essentially turned off the engine, coasted into T1, and then mid-corner, turn the engine back on, and just turn the ignition back on, drop the clutch, and the car kicks into gear and jumps up without essentially a starter. Just to cool the engine essentially, but it wasn't particularly effective, so I didn't do it again. But it seemed to have done at least a trick for getting me to the end without getting the engine to smoke another time. So we remained with 2 moments of the engine smoking for about less than a second in this entire race. And really the overheating problem, the reason why this happened, why I took essentially too much tape here, was simply because with the summertime switch, SRGP puts the usual weather setting up to a different. Essentially, in summertime, he uses 30 degrees, sunny sky, so no to minimal cloud cover, and thereby you have high engine temperatures if you are still continuing to run from the wintertime settings. The tape, which was 50%, so tested last few races, was totally fine. But the thing is, because of those wintertime races are run under 20 degrees Celsius with high cloud cover, so essentially to simulate racing in winter somewhat. Yeah, go figure. It's so I'm just accidentally running too much tape. The thing is, with these USF, they don't heat up quickly. You can run 100% engine maintain no issues in qualifying. Like in 4 or 5 laps, the engine will not heat up to the point that it overheats. However, if you in a race, it takes just 20 minutes till the engine starts to get up to stopping heating up. Before that, it just continuously heats and heats and heats as I'm braking very hard into the final turn, trying to make up time, but just I made up a bit of time, but I lost everything on the exit. So at this point, my usual excuse of tires will come in now. But yeah, I've been charging this entire race as fast as I can just to get back. And before he made his mistake, I was only 6 seconds behind him, so I had really run down this gap, including going through the entire traffic. When I rejoined the track, I was 10 seconds down to him, and had to cut through an entire set of 13 cars to get to this position. No, not 13 cars, it's 12 cars, because I still have P1 for me. So we're now on the final lap, as the time has just expired. I take a bit of the inside sausage curb and run a bit wide, but there isn't a chance at this point anymore for me getting the race win. Except he flies off into the scenery, but really he doesn't need to push, he just needs to continue driving. He's not perhaps winning the championship this way. I mean, he can't do anything to win the championship here at this point. I've been here, I've nailed essentially this in. Really the reason why I'm driving in B division, not the A division, is I had a really terrible pre-season race. Which I tried my best in that race, it's just at Botnaring and it didn't work out. And then for Palm Springs, the first race of the season, as the fuel light comes on, I had a setup of my teammate. I took it, minor adjustment, and it went good, very good. I qualified there at pole, but just about. It was a very close qualifying session. As we just finished the race, yeah, P2. I started on pole. Not the outcome that I wanted, but I mean, after ending up off the track as he goes for some celebratory donuts, it's still a pretty good result. Like, let's face it, it's still not that bad. And just to driver standings, we're now at 157 points after 6 rounds of 7. He's at 147 points, and as you see, yeah, with the dropped score, I'm basically secure. He can score a maximum of 34 points in the final round. However, what isn't secure yet, and this is why I need to really push in the final round, is the team's championship, because Barnes Simsport is just about eking out Rookie Monster points by 5 points. This is the first round where we've actually taken finally the championship lead. After in the first round, I was the only car of our team that ran the B division, so we ended up scoring only 42 points. And there's no drop score on the team's championship. You have to go for every point you can get. And Rookie Monsters had a really terrible race, because they had Hudson finished only 6th, and Aslan had a really good race, finishing 4th. I mean, it should have been better with me winning the race, but that extra point that I'm getting for winning is not really making the car fat in this case. It might be the decider in the end of the championship, but the goal is to obviously win the final at Suzuka, and yeah, it will be interesting because these cars may run out of fuel in that race. We have to do fuel saving, and these tires are. You see how my front right was down to very much down already, so tires will be a very big concern if we take the race distance 50% up. Yep. So it's not working. So for the 0 people, essentially, they're still after 2 hours. Yes, after all the editing thing is now at nearly 2 hours length, and I will talk long enough that it will go over 2 hours. Here's essentially the next week's schedule. On Monday we have the CFAG April Fool's one-off race. Then Tuesday morning, essentially just the same day, we have the HHRL NASCAR race, round 7 of the championship in Texas. Then on Friday, we have the World Sports Flat 6 Cup, the final round of the championship. Now, I haven't attended any of the other rounds, I'm just like, yeah, I have now the Friday slot open because the MCL series ended this week, so I'm just like, well, why not turn up for the Flat 6 Championship? I like Flat 6. Let's go for it. Then we have on Saturday, the 6th of April, at 12 a.m., the World Sims. Not 12 a.m., is it? PM. It's 12. It's just 12 o'clock. The World Sims Sport USF Classic race, the final round, essentially the championship decider. Then in the evening, we have the Simracing Club Virtual Endurance Championship, round 7, Silverstone 8 hours. I'm driving for Black Dragon Racing, the LMP3. I'm actually not the starting driver for once, but let's see. We didn't have particularly great performance. This team is quite underperforming, but let's see what we can salvage out of Silverstone. Then on Sunday, we have the CFAG Sports Car Off-Season Race, essentially. A one-off race at Dubai, which is over 4 hours with LMP2, GTE, and GT3. The entire Barn Sim Sport team is running there. We have the Protahawk running, Protahawk LMP2 running. We have our 3 GTEs, which one of them is the Mad Hawk car, which I'm driving. So look forward to that. But I'm not actually doing that much driving at Dubai because 7th of April I'm tied down with family business, so I'm only getting in essentially for the last stint of the race. The rest of the stint in the Mad Hawk car is covered by Mr. COTA. So yeah, pretty good racing looking out for next week. Essentially, it's Wednesday when I'm now recording the end of this. I've started editing on Sunday night, and I definitely know now that I need to start editing immediately for that week's episode. And I also obviously know that I did the HHRL race and did oversleep again. So you will see some NASCAR action next week, if I get around to editing it in a timely fashion. Let's hope so. Anyway, whoever stuck out to this point, do whatever. I don't know. Perhaps reconsider life because you just spent 2 hours watching me drive cars into walls. Not actually that much into walls. How much wall contact did I have this week? I don't think so that much. Let's end this.